How's it going? Today, guys, I want to share with you potentially a shiny hunting method for the wild zones in Pokémon Legends ZA, and I'm going to quickly explain how it works, and there are actually kind of 3 ways to sort of do it, but more or less, it all comes down to you basically have to just reload the areas you are within. Now, there are also some tips I'm going to have in this video that you definitely should keep in mind, and some actual details that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about that I'll go through. But I want to first and foremost just mention that this method was more or less discovered by this fella on Twitter. I mean, I think a lot of other people by now have also seen it, but this fella, Noah, actually figured out that he got an early shiny alpha while in the call tonight with his friends. After doing 406 of these alphas seen, he found his first shiny, and he says he's going to drop a video on how he did this or whatever. But basically what he does is that, as you can see, he's currently in Wild Zone 3, and I'm going to go in game as well and show you how this exact area and how this exact shiny hunt worked. But what he does is he runs inside of the tower here, which takes him up to the 2nd floor, and then when he reaches the 2nd floor, you will hear that he freaks out because there it is, a shiny fletchling, right? Shiny fletchling will be right there. And of course, the first thing he does is he saves his game, and then he catches it, and boom, there you go. He got it. Now, what is exactly going on here, right? What is happening? Well, I'm going to go in-game, and I'm going to show you exactly what's going on. So, let's start by going to Wild Zone 3. Now, if you're in Wild Zone 3, you'll notice that there is a tower in the middle of this place. So, you'll see there's a tower right there. Now, basically, the way you can shiny hunt is more or less the following. You can either just open up your actual map and load back into this exact same place. Just travel back to the same zone, go inside, run around this entire place, and look until you see a shiny. If you hear the shiny sound, you might hear a shiny sound, you know, if there's a shiny nearby. I'll also play the shiny sound, you know, right now in the background of this video, just so you can hear what it sounds like in case you do run into one, in case you do not know what the shiny sound like is. But here's the thing. If you want to save time, instead of clicking the map and doing this, traveling back here to reset all these spawns, what they discovered is that in this particular wild zone, you can just run upstairs, and you'll see that now, when we go upstairs, there should be a fletchling there, which, yep, there it is. What we're going to do, though, is run downstairs, and all of a sudden, the actual spawns down here will have reset. Now, oftentimes, I mean, this is going to be the same Litleo. Like, it's not the same one, but it's in the same position. And that's because that's just like one of the default places they can spawn. But all you got to do now is run around here until you find a shiny or hear a shiny, right? Just run around. If you hear the shiny sound, right? There's no shiny sounds. I don't hear any shiny sounds. There's nothing. Nothing. Okay? We can't seem to hear anything. No shiny sounds. Okay, great. Then all you got to do is run back up again and go upstairs. Boom. And that's it. Now, the reason this works, like, let me actually explain functionally what this is, like, doing, right? Like, what is this actually doing in terms of, like, its function? Well, here is what it basically does, right? So, more or less, you can basically load into the game over and over again. You have to basically go into a loading screen to reset the spawns of the Pokemon in the Wild Zone. And all you gotta do for this is either really quickly run away, really far away, or just fly back into a zone, like right here, right? If we're right here, and all we gotta do is open the map and just fly over here. If we do this and run back into Wild Zone 3, it will be reset. And then all you have to do is run through the Wild Zone itself, right? Do exactly the same thing all over again. Run through it like this, right? Just run around and see if there is a shiny. Now, obviously, ideally, because of this specific, wild zone, we do have this big tower here. And this tower saves you a lot of time. You can just run inside of here. This loading screen is so much faster and so much quicker than you having to go all the way through the actual loading screen of flying out like this. But that's not going to work everywhere. Certain places work differently. So, if you want to save time, for example, we can go over to Wild Zone 4, where I will show you how to actually reset the spawns in a different way. Because, of course, loading screens is one way. That's method number 1. The other method is running further away. So, in Wild Zone 4, if we go inside here, you guys will see what kind of Pokemon we have, right? You'll see there's 2 Ghastlies, right? There's 2 Ghastlies right there. There is a Spinarak. So what you want to do is just run through the entire zone, right? Run around the entire zone until you hear a shiny sound, or if you see a shiny, right? I mean, I guess in this case, I mean, there's nothing. You can just run around, see if you hear a shiny sound. There is no shiny sound, Oh, no, that's just a bunch of angry Pokemon, right? Now, instead of just clicking the button here to load back into the specific zone, what we can do instead is we run outside and we go back to the front gates, right? So we ran through, we checked the entire place. Of course, you got to be a bit more thorough than I am. But what you can do right now is, right, if if you look at the gate, we can kind of tell which Pokemon are where. So you see there's a Ghastly right there, and you can see there's a Spinarak specifically on the wall back there. Now, to tell that we've reset this place, what we're going to do is we're going to run all the way over here to this trash can. Now, the thing is, each zone kind of has a different range for how far you got to run, but if you run to the trash can and run back, the actual spawns will reset. So there are basically two methods for you to do this. Of course, like I said, one of them is literally opening up your map and traveling. Now you'll see the Ghastly is no longer here. However, the Spinarak is still here, and there's a new Ghastly on the right side. And again, this becomes even more evident if you do it several times. Like, you'll notice it even more so if you just run back and forth several times over and over again, that it does keep changing. And I've tried this several times, and sometimes the spawns will be similar but slightly different than the ones you've seen before, but they are different though. So basically the method works like in two ways. Either you got to enter a building, right? You either got to go into a loading screen. Right now you'll see there's a Ghastly on the left, and you'll also see there's a Ghastly here, but the Spinarak is still here too. However, other times, if we run back outside, neither of these guys will be here. So again, it all depends on, you basically have to choose which method is better, you know, to yourself. And of course, you can also hear shinies from outside of the wild zone itself. Like, if you actually stand outside of it, you can actually hear shinies that spawn on the inside. Like, if a shiny spawns on the inside over here, you will hear it on the outside of the gates. Like, you'll be able to actually hear it. Again, Ghastly is here. Spinarak, this Spinarak does not want to change. But like I said, your options are, of course, to run to that trash can if you want to reset. But the better method, obviously, a more guaranteed way to make sure that the spawns are resetting, is just to do this. Just fly back, make sure you get this loading screen, and then once you've done that, there will be a new set of Pokemon spawned in, right? You guys will see, if we go back in, there will be new spawns. You'll see there's no longer a Spinarak on the wall. See? It's no longer here. Like, it's missing on here. However, you have to understand that there are a few Pokemon that are a little bit more static than others. Like, certain Pokemon are going to have very default spawns. They're always going to be in certain positions, or they're going to be more likely to spawn in certain positions. So just keep that in mind. So don't assume that, like, simply because, you know, certain Pokemon are always in the same place, that means that the spawn has not been reset. The main important thing is you can try to test out in each of these zones and see how far away you need to run before they actually reset. Or if you don't want to do the running method, the one, like, let's say the trash can method, which is to run all the way over there to the trash can and then do the same thing if you're, I don't know, if you're literally doing this in any other, you know, zone, just running further away from the zone itself, this will reset them, right? So if we run away again, you'll see what I mean. Just going to reset the spawn from here, right? So this distance seems to reset these guys. And if we run back, it's going to be a new set of spawns. So again, you have two methods more or less to do this. Again, it's not a type-proof way of explaining it, but it does seem like the method that everybody seems to be using. And of course, Ghastlies are just very common here. So of course, we're going to see a lot of those and we're running through. But like I said, this seems like the most type-proof method to actually do. But however, we do want to talk about some other stuff, which is, of course, now that we know that you can do this, right? So the method for hunting is literally just, you have to get a loading screen. Like, that's the most important thing. However, there doesn't seem to be any way to chain or increase your odds besides the obvious ways, right? Like the obvious things you can do. So currently, the only way to do this is load back in or reset your location, right? You're just going to reset it, or you're going to reload your game in some way, not turning it off or on, but literally reloading the location. So flying back to it or running away from the wild zone for a decent amount of distance and then running back in to reset the spawns, right? And as you saw in Wild Zone 3, if there's a building you can enter, that's even better because the loading for that building is way quicker than the loading that you have for the map spawn. So that's pretty much that. But again, there is some more stuff you should understand. So this is super important, like super, super, super important that you have to remember. And just please do not make this mistake. So you see, here's the deal, right? Number one, do not kill Pokemon. And the reason for this is because the game has autosaves. Yes. So the thing about the game is that it automatically autosaves constantly. However, this autosave only works and only activates at specific times. When does it do this? Well, it will autosave if you're doing story stuff, and it will autosave specifically if you catch a Pokemon. Yes, if you catch a Pokemon, then the game will autosave. So you got to make sure that if there's a shiny in your area, that autosave can actually be actually a good thing. Like if you end up going around and catching a bunch of Pokemon, like in the zone, like you just go around here catching a bunch of Ghastlies, and you end up like catching one, and then suddenly you hear a shiny sound on the right side, then you've already got an autosave that's ready for you that you can reset for. Because the way that it works is, if you attack a Pokemon, right, and catch it, then it's going to autosave. But if you kill a Pokemon, you knock it out, then it's not going to autosave for you. And if you knock out a Pokemon and you fail to catch it, it will not autosave either. So just keep that in mind. There's basically 3 ways this goes. If you catch a Pokemon, it autosaves. If you do not catch a Pokemon, you fail to catch it, it does not autosave. And if you knock a Pokemon out completely, it doesn't autosave either. So what you ideally want to do is, if you are playing the game and let's say you find a shiny, you want to quickly open up your menu, you want to press save, you want to save your game, and then boom, you're going to be able to reset and try to catch that shiny until you finally get it, right? Because the autosave only functions whenever your game is actually, whenever you actually catch a Pokemon. The game only autosaves after you catch a Pokemon. And to prove this, I'll actually show you right here exactly what we're talking about. So let's pull out really quickly, I don't know, what do we actually have here? Let's pull out Ampharos, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to attack this Ghastly, and we're going to take him out, right? So you can see now he's knocked out. If you look in the top right, you'll see that there is no autosave button that pops up, right? Boom. No autosave popped up. And let's go now over here, and let's see if we can catch see a Pokemon that we can try to, like knock out and then fail to catch. Like we gotta find one that's a little bit stronger. So let's go somewhere like Wild Zone 20, because that has a lot of really high-level Pokemon. So if we go in here, if we go into this place, you'll see that there's going to be a lot of high-level Pokemon, and we can test out if we actually do try to, if we do actually, fail to catch a Pokemon, how does that work? So let's find ourselves a really strong Pokemon that we can just use a Pokeball on after knocking it out. So here's a Malamar. Let's just attack him really quick. Here we go. All right, so we're going to use just a regular Pokeball and see, hopefully that fails. Because if it catches him, there you go, it failed. Now he's going to disappear, and see, there is no autosave in the top right of the screen. However, if we now go and catch a Pokemon, right? If we actually manage to capture one, like let's say this Hippowdon over here, we're just going to use the obviously not sketchy amount of Master Balls. And if we use that, you'll see now, look at the top right, now saving. See? It actually shows now that the game has been saved. So basically, something you have to keep in mind then is that anytime you play the game, if you are shiny hunting, you just got to make sure you do not accidentally catch a bunch of Pokemon. Sometimes it could come in clutch, right? Sometimes it can save you. However, other times it could be to your detriment, okay? It could literally cost you everything, and you could end up failing in shiny. So ideally what you want to do is you only want to throw Pokeballs when you actually have a shiny, and before you actually go up to a shiny Pokemon, save. Instantly save, because yes, you can save and keep resetting until you catch it in case you fail to catch it the first time, because in this game, there is a high tendency, okay, of a Pokemon always being caught, right? And the thing is, in this game as well, is if a Pokemon is low enough, right, if you lower its HP enough, it is going to essentially be knocked out no matter what. And if it's knocked out, you only have one chance to catch it, right? So that's something to keep in mind, is that you want to make sure that you have a save right before the shiny, but right before you actually attack it, so that you make sure that if you end up failing to catch it after knocking it out, that at least you have a chance to try it again, right? That's something super important to remember, but that's not the only thing. Here are some actual tips I want to give you really quickly about this game, and something that can help you when shiny hunting. Now, these are some basic tips that I think you guys should know, but let's just go out here so I can show you what I'm talking about. Now, number one, if we go into our settings, we can go down here to settings, and we can find the sound options. Now, here's the thing. The game uses a sound effect again. Just like Legends Arceus, there's a sound effect that tells you when a shiny Pokemon has spawned. So ideally, you want to keep your sound effect at maximum and your music at the lowest. Now, I know the Pokemon music in this game is a straight banger, but if you're going to be shiny hunting and you want to give yourself the best possible advantage, you want to make sure this is as far down as humanly possible, okay? You want to make sure you avoid that at all times. Like, do not have this music on, because it's just going to distract you. You want to make sure you hear everything properly. And I think even having cries pretty low is also a good thing, because sometimes the cries can kind of distract you a little bit, and you might think it's a shiny sound, right? Now, the next thing is, obviously, another thing that you should probably get your hands on is, if we go right down here, there is a company called the Racine Construction Company. Now, these guys will sell you specifically some interesting items, and we're going to go over and talk to them really quickly, because they do sell something that is super useful to us. So if we talk to this guy, he wants us to give him colorful screws. Now, colorful screws are these purple items you find all around the map if you climb things. Now, they sell a very specific item here that is extremely useful to us, and that would be this one right here, the blue Canary plush, a plush doll of Canary that holds a blue charm. Having one of these makes it a little more likely that you'll succeed at catching Pokemon. You want to make sure you max this out to make sure you at all times avoid any risk of failing to catch a shiny Pokemon, okay? You just want to avoid that at all costs. So that's like something you should definitely do. It goes up to like 3 levels. It's like maxes out at 3. So you're just going to have about 18 of these screws to be able to actually do this, right? Like you literally just need 18 of these screws, and then you'll be able to more or less like have a higher chance of getting a catch. You basically avoid the risk of a Pokemon not being caught. That's like the main thing with that. So that's one tip. The next tip, of course, is, I mean, ideally, you'd want to make sure you get the Shiny Charm. For the Shiny Charm, you do have to complete the Pokédex. You have to complete the side stories, and you have to also, I mean, the side stories are not super important, but they are kind of part of like completing the entire game, because at the bottom here at level 50 you have the Shiny Charm, and to get it you have to do several things like completing your Pokédex, filling up your Mega Evolution Dex, and doing a bunch of other stuff, and all of this is going to require you to play the post game and stuff as well. So it takes a long time, but the Shiny Charm is worth it because it's going to boost your shiny odds by a substantial amount. Now, I don't know the exact number, please do not quote me. Somebody in the comments might know it by now, but it's something that needs to be data mined, so you're probably going to see people on Twitter sharing the actual numbers. I've seen some people say that the numbers in this game are 1 in 4,096 or something like that, and I've seen other people say that it's 1 in 8,192. I don't know. I cannot confirm that for you personally, because I literally do not know that. I genuinely cannot tell you which way or what way it actually is, or what amount it actually is, but I will tell you right now that if you want to get shinies, this is probably the best method, right? All you gotta do is find a wild zone, right? And either you gotta run, gotta go into it, walk around the entire area, see if there's a shiny. If there isn't, you either press the map again and load back in, or you run out and you run a little bit of a distance and then you run back in again to get your spawns. Of course, this section right here, like on the third one, like Wild Zone 3, is probably one of the best ones to start in. It's a good area to start shiny hunting because it's the only one that has a building that I've seen so far, a building like this that you can enter so easily. I mean, there are probably other ones too that have similar buildings, but I've just had a struggle like actually finding them, but you should be able to find them all around the place. And keep in mind, some places will require you to do much longer runs because like some zones are much larger. Like you'll have Zone 5 here, which is way bigger and there's way more space to check, but that's just how it is. It's part of the whole shiny hunting experience in this game. So hopefully that makes some sense. I know this is not a completely like 100% clear guide, and that's because this stuff isn't 100% like confirmed. Like we still need a little bit more confirmation, but it's a good starting point. So hopefully this will get some of you guys into shiny hunting. And again, biggest thank you in my opinion actually should go not to me, but over to the fellas on Twitter, like Noah here, because Noah was actually the reason I even like decided to look into this myself, because I was kind of curious, oh, how does this work? So I actually ended up going and trying to do a few resets, and I ended up actually doing like multiple tests to see if the Pokemon that are actually spawning are different Pokemon. And I managed to prove that that was the case, because we ended up doing this exact same thing, but we did it in a different area. We did it in Wild Zone 1. And what we did in Wild Zone 1 was that we actually reset until we got ourselves a very specific thing popping up. Now, what was that thing? Well, that thing was essentially just a Pidgey, right? It was an alpha Pidgey, and what we wanted to do was to see if that alpha Pidgey would change if we had a save file where we were right in front of it, and then we attacked it, right? And then we caught it, and we checked its stats, and then what we did was we took that same save file, but we reset it backwards, and then what we did was we left the area, and we came back, and there was a new, like it's the same alpha, like it was the same alpha Pidgey, but when we caught it, it had completely different stats, a completely different nature, meaning that that was a different Pidgey. It wasn't the same one as before. So again, it all seems to be really, really connected, and I would say, again, a big shout out to Noah, because he was like the core of like why I wanted to look into this further, and I think this is the most likely method. I even saw Juns here thanking him because he also managed to do the exact same thing. So you can see right there, he goes up, and as he goes up, there is just a regular fletchling, and as he goes down, there's going to be a very special little surprise at the bottom. You guys can already see, right? There it is, right? Boom. And in case you guys, again, I'm going to play the shiny sound, so if you are confused about what the shiny sound is like, I'm going to play it in the video so you guys can actually see what it sounds like in case you don't already know. So I'm going to make sure that you guys actually can hear the shiny sound. So here is what it sounds like when he came downstairs. You guys can just hear it just in case. There you go. See, it sounds like it's literally just a little, it's like a jingle, right? Like very similar to like Arceus. So if you hear that shiny jingle, you know you've got yourself a shiny Pokemon. So yeah, that's pretty much that. I hope this was a clear video. I know it's a bit of a long one. It's just something I wanted to make to just, you know, get it out there because I think it's interesting and I think it's worthwhile to share because I want to get people into shiny hunting early on. There's probably going to be a better video by other people, most likely posted in the next few days that are going to be way better than this one. But hey, I just want to help out a little bit because I couldn't go to sleep. This kept bothering me. I was like, there's got to be a proper way to do this shiny hunting. And then these people were already doing it, and I was like, hey, why is nobody talking about this? Like, you know, more people need to talk about this. But yeah, so that's the video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.